Santa Clarita Station. On the morning of November 14th, 2019, Detective Finn was off duty and used the opportunity to drive his girlfriend's son, a senior at Saugus High School, to the school campus. After saying goodbye, Detective Finn telephoned one of his partners, the school resource deputy assigned to Saugus High. During their conversation, Detective Finn noticed dozens of students fleeing in panic from the school campus. The students were running out of several hallways and corridors, leading the detective to believe that there must be a large fight or some other significant disturbance on campus. He described what he was witnessing to the resource deputy and asked his partner if he had heard any information on the radio as to what was causing the panic. The resource deputy responded that he was not currently on campus and had not heard of anything unusual occurring at the school. Detective Finn then noticed that the number of students fleeing the school had increased considerably. He pulled his vehicle to the curb, rolled his passenger window down, and asked a student running by what was going on. The student was pale and out of breath and managed to utter that there was someone shooting a gun on campus. Detective Finn directed the resource deputy who was responding from the Canyon Country area to initiate an active shooter broadcast occurring on the campus of Saugus High School. Detective Finn maneuvered his car around hundreds of students who were now spilling out of the school's gates while relaying his actions to the deputy. Detective Finn armed himself with his off-duty weapon and rushed into the school wearing only blue jeans and a t-shirt emblazoned with the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff's Station crest. Detective Finn worked his way west down an administrative walkway toward the school's inner courtyard. His training and years of experience as an active shooter course instructor guided his actions as he proceeded toward the assailant. Detective Finn was now walking in the direction of the courtyard toward the chaotic sounds of screaming students. He noticed that as he was getting closer, the sounds were fading, perhaps indicating that the situation had become more precarious. Prior to reaching the end of the corridor, Detective Finn was joined by Inglewood police officer Sean Yanez, who had just dropped off his own son for school and had also witnessed the sudden panic of fleeing students. The two officers coordinated their response, each covering the other as they passed potentially dangerous doorways and windows and other outlets where a suspect could have been waiting or hiding. Despite the obvious personal danger they could be facing, the two pressed forward without regard to their own safety. Upon reaching the school's inner courtyard, Detective Finn recognized the school principal was on scene. He directed the principal to secure the school, including the perimeter gates and individual classrooms. The courtyard was empty of students, except for two teens lying on the ground a short distance from the administrative offices. There were countless backpacks, cellular telephones, and books strewn about the ground. Half-eaten snacks, tipped-over water bottles and drinks, dozens of jackets lying on the ground. An area which had been vibrant and full of life and laughter, then filled with the sounds of screaming and terror, and was now silent, desolate. The silence itself was deafening. The two officers continued moving forward toward the two students lying on the ground, a boy and a girl. As they drew closer, Detective Finn observed a third victim lying just beyond a large tree and ran to his aid. Detective Finn knelt beside the young man, noticing a gunshot wound to his torso, and comforted the boy. Unfortunately, the victim would succumb to his wounds later at a nearby hospital. Detective Finn, now joined by an off-duty Los Angeles Police Department officer, Gus Ramirez, and several other administrators, began to render medical aid to the two remaining victims. During their life-saving efforts, the officers observed an empty pistol lying at the feet of one of the teens, leading them to suspect that this may be the person who had perpetrated this senseless crime. Sadly, the female victim would not survive her injuries. The male, who sustained a gunshot wound to his head, clung to life and was taken to a nearby medical facility. Days later, he also succumbed to his injuries. Detective Finn telephoned Santa Clarita Station and provided the watch commander with the necessary information regarding the victim's status, the suspected assailant, and the incident scene. Within minutes of the incident's occurrence, Sergeant Callahan arrived on scene as the first uniformed officer. He had been en route to the high school as the assigned resource deputy when he was notified of the incident. Upon arriving, he located Detective Finn and provided cover for the officers and staff. Over the next several minutes, Sergeant Callahan's knowledge of the school's layout was instrumental in deploying the responding personnel. His relationships with the faculty also proved instrumental in the safe and methodical search of the classrooms, storage areas, and offices. Sergeant Callahan's unwavering courage and professionalism as he directed responding law enforcement officers throughout the campus in search of additional suspects who had sheltered themselves in classrooms was invaluable. Detective Finn and Sergeant Callahan remained on scene even after the victims had been transported from the campus. Emotionally and physically exhausted, both men continued to scour the school for security video footage, witnesses, or any other piece of evidence that could assist in the subsequent investigation. Their selfless willingness to remain on the scene after experiencing such a tragic and traumatic event was exemplary and a testament to their character. Both officers entered the school with the sole intention of confronting the suspect and saving the lives of as many students as possible. Armed only with their respective firearms, the officers charged into a situation in which they could have easily been outnumbered or overwhelmed by the suspect. They did not know the number of assailants, their location, or what type of weapon they possessed, and despite the lack of that information, Detective Finn pressed on with no safety equipment and no means of communicating with responding law enforcement officers. For his tremendous bravery and selfless actions during a deadly situation, Sergeant James Callahan is awarded the Meritorious Conduct Medal, Gold. Detective Finn's selfless action in such a horrific and chaotic situation, choosing the welfare of others over his own personal safety, is truly extraordinary. For his great bravery and for knowingly placing himself in immediate life-threatening peril, Detective Finn is awarded the Medal of Valor. Law enforcement officers work together in extreme danger. The operative outcome of this incident is a credit to their commitment, their professionalism, and their valiant attitude without regard to their own safety. For their unselfish actions, compassion, and resolve in this precarious situation, Los Angeles Police Department Officer Gus Ramirez and Inglewood Police Department Officer Sean Yanez are awarded the Humanitarian Award. It has been an incredible honor to shake the hands of the men and women of this department and others that have really made incredible sacrifices and risked it all for this community. It is an honor to be here. It is an honor now and a pleasure to introduce the Sheriff of Los Angeles County, Robert Luna.
Mark, you're a hard act to follow. I will try. So I had some remarks prepared, but I'm going to launch them, meaning I'm going to get rid of them. I just feel a different way right now, specifically after being on stage or having the privilege of being on stage with giants, heroes, so many terms that we can use. Several weeks ago, I found myself in San Diego listening to different presentations. And one of the many I heard was from an Israeli general. And he was trying to describe to our class what the Israelis had gone through the day that they had the terrorist attacked at the beginning of October. And it was interesting to hear his perspective. And I'm telling you this story because it reminds me of the stories we heard now. That he talked about being a police officer. Or in our case, whether it's a police officer or a deputy sheriff. That when you raise your right hand to take an oath, that you make a commitment that no one, not too many people, I should say, would ever understand. And that's a commitment that when you go out there to work, or you're in a custody facility, wherever you work wearing a uniform, you have basically made a contract that said you are willing to put your life ahead of others. Man, if that is not one of the most noble things that any human being can do, is to be willing to sacrifice their life so that others could live, or at least live in peace. And that's what all of you do every day. See, if I was to take a poll, not one person in here was drafted to do this job. You're doing this job because you volunteered, because you love people, you love the concept of helping others. As they say, serve others before you serve yourself. I always tell stories of people who are willing to walk by somebody in need and just be okay with that. Not ever turn back or make a U-turn and say, what can I do to help you? I'm telling you, I have so much pride right now wearing this uniform and being part of our department, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and the other departments represented here, because you are like no other. You lay it on the line every day, and not only physically, mentally. Because as Mark was describing each story to all of us, yes, thank God that everybody who walked up here survived their encounter. But yet, they made a decision, whether it was a burning home, a burning car, to enter a dwelling, to enter a school, whatever it was, they chose that somebody else's life was more important than theirs. That leaves me, and it should leave everybody in our community in complete awe. So thank you to each and every one of you who chose to do this job. And thank you to the families that are here, and even those who are not, who sit at home, because there's only one, in my opinion, there's only one job tougher than the one who chooses to put on this uniform and go out. That's the people who stay at home just praying that you're going to make it back. And a lot of them are in this room. So can we take a pause and give applause to our families who support us? As I conclude, and I know they were already recognized and absolutely honored. Yesterday, I went to the sentencing hearing where both Claudia and Manuel got to give their victim statements. And when I heard you guys talking about leaving your families during the day, expecting that you're going to come home at night, and you almost didn't, but it was through the actions that you took that day that you saved each other's lives. But more than that, it's a beacon for all of us to live up to. Because I think everybody in uniform here wonders, man, when that happens to me, can I stand up? Can I do what's needed to be done? Can I save the guy or girl next to me? And both of you showed that and showed us the way. So for that, we are forever grateful to each and every one of you who put your lives on the line so others could either live or maybe they didn't make it, but that was not because of your lack of effort. I could say this because as controversies has happened around the country about police officers either reluctant or unwilling to run into a school when kids are being murdered, based on what I heard today and what I know about us, that would never, ever happen here, ever. So thank you very much for who you are, what you chose to do, and to be part of the best department, not only in the United States, but the entire world. And before I get off stage, I would like to give a special acknowledgement to everyone from our Sheriff's Information Bureau. This was a really nice event today, and it's in honor of our best.